Welcome back for another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. Today we are on episode 27, The Accountability Advantage, From Excuses to Ownership. This topic of accountability is really fresh on my mind after we just got back from our first Full Focus retreat. So the Aspire to Achieve Full Focus retreat that we did in Rocky Gap in November. We made sure that as we were looking into the new year for 2025, that all of the goals that people were setting were in alignment with their values, their purpose, their definition of success in their life, and what needs to be a priority at this time. But the piece that has to take place after they leave the retreat is that accountability piece. And so we had a conversation about making sure that they have a clear picture of what it looks like to hold themselves accountable, to find people in their lives to hold them accountable to the things that they've committed to during the retreat, and even looked at some of the programs that I have available to support with accountability. And I have to say it's been great because, we're several weeks out from the retreat and I'm still receiving messages almost every single day from folks letting me know where they are on their goals because they didn't wait until 2025 to begin. They started right away. So I have some people that are messaging me their daily big three and what their priorities are for the day and whether or not they accomplished them that day. I have some reaching out and letting me know if they've sat down and done a weekly preview, looking ahead into the next week and having a clear picture of what their priorities should be, and so on. So it's really great to hear from folks and know that I can be that person for them. And by sharing with me what they're doing, they feel like, they are reporting back and I'm holding them accountable without me even reaching out to them. They know how excited I'll be that they're following through. And they also know that they don't want to let me down. They don't want to disappoint me by not following through on their commitment. So we know the power of accountability. I've spoken about it briefly in a previous episode, but I was thinking about how it's more than just a buzzword. It is a principle that can really transform the way that we lead ourselves, the way we lead our families, the way that we lead teams and our organizations. And as you guys know, I want to make sure that these episodes that I share with you are things that not just apply to folks in a leadership role within an organization, but it's something that you can truly apply no matter where you are in life. That is the whole purpose of this podcast. So I wanted to make sure today when I unpack the idea of accountability that we think about accountability within ourselves, holding people accountable within our family unit and what that could look like, and then take a look at what it looks like to have a culture of accountability in our organization. And the reason that I chose the title From Excuses to Ownership is because I do hear a lot of excuses, not just from other people. I make excuses sometimes too, and they can be kind of comforting in the moment and feel like, I'm giving a good reason as to why this thing isn't happening, why I didn't follow through. But really, what does that do? It's going to hold us back from growth. It is going to erode trust with others as well as, honestly, with ourselves because we kind of get used to letting ourselves down, disappointing ourselves, and we're retraining our brain to think, well, I can make this commitment, but I don't even know if I'm going to follow through on it. So I really want to take some time today to talk about how we can make that shift from making excuses for ourselves, and sometimes we make excuses for other people as well, and think about how we can move into ownership and the impact that can have on ourselves and our growth, as well as the people around us. So obviously, I want to start today by really just looking at you, looking at yourself and thinking about personal accountability, because that's truly where all of this starts. It has to start with us, as in every other episode, and why I talk about leading yourself first is most important. We can't think about effectively leading other people until we've taken the time to really get to know how to lead ourselves effectively. So what does personal accountability look like? So that, to me, is all about taking full responsibility for your actions, for decisions that you're making, for the outcomes that you're seeing in your life. And that requires a lot of honesty transparency with yourself and really reflecting on the way in which you approach challenges in your life, owning up to any mistakes that you make, and having this focus on continuous improvement. Believe me, I have made plenty of excuses over the years. I'm not immune to this. I do it all the time. But I also think I've grown a lot in that area because I think that, and I will use my health as an example, I could use that excuse almost every single day. The people that see me every day realize that I seem to have something, some sort of ailment going on at all times. And if I wanted to have an excuse as to why I am not growing in the areas that I should, the reasons why I'm not following through on my commitments to myself, the things that I say are important to me, I could use that health excuse all day, every day. Right now, I'll give the perfect example for this. I got back from speaking at High Point, and as soon as I did, I ended up with bronchitis. I've had bronchitis for over 4 weeks, and as that started to go away, I ended up having some sort of issue where I guess I had coughed for so long that I ended up tearing muscles on the side of my rib cage, and now I can't lift things, and it hurts to breathe, and I can't sleep properly. So I could literally be using that as an excuse every day as to, I don't want to record a podcast today. I'm miserable. It hurts to breathe. I am in an accountability group for 20 minutes of exercise today. I could use that as an excuse. I can't really breathe, and I feel like I can't move the left side of my body, but I'm not going to allow myself to make excuses. So that every single day for me, being able to push through and set aside, yeah, I don't feel great, but I'm not going to let that prevent me from following through on the things that I feel like I need to do for myself or to have an impact on others. I just keep pushing through. And I feel like so often the biggest excuse that I hear from people is about time. I don't have the time. I hear it all the time. I know you hear it all the time too. You might say it all the time. I think that's a really poor excuse. I think if you were to reframe that, you would actually say something like, I didn't prioritize my time effectively, because I want you to consider how often the things that you say you don't have the time for, if you actually sat down and thought through all of the things that you needed to achieve in that 24-hour period, and if you really reflected on what has to be a priority, did you really not have the time, or did you choose to scroll through Facebook for the 15 minutes that it would have taken to do that task? So I tend to not love excuses. I try really hard not to make them. And like I said, to kind of push through the I'm too tired to do it. I think a lot of that is also, that's just a mental kind of mindset shift. If you tell yourself you're too tired, you're going to be too tired. I felt too tired before I started recording this episode, and I will confess that the way I got myself amped up is I was singing School of Rock and did a little Jack Black, and then I suddenly had the energy and motivation to record this episode. So there are so many different reasons that we can give to not follow through. So let's just think of the impact on those the results, the outcomes that we're looking for when we make excuses. So if I had made the excuse that I didn't feel good today and I didn't record this podcast, there would not be a podcast episode to go out next Friday. That would be our first missed episode, missed week, and 27 weeks, almost 28 weeks at this point. I know consistency is important. I know the number of times I haven't felt like doing another episode, but I know the impact that it will have, and that people are actually reaching out to me and saying that they're listening and they expect it to come out on Fridays. So again, guess what? It's accountability. Sometimes when it's myself that's getting in the way, other people and the impact my decisions have on them are the things that keep me going. I don't want to let someone else down, so I will record the episode. I don't want to mess up our streak of exercise every day for, what are we on now, 59 days, because I don't want to let someone else down. So until we build up enough trust in ourselves that we're going to follow through on things, I think it's always a great idea to find other people that you can vocalize the areas that you typically make excuses, and ensure that they are checking in on you, or that you have to reach out to them and report back that you're doing the thing. And I know that can be extremely helpful. So I think shifting from excuses to ownership when it comes to our own personal accountability really sounds like reframing. As I mentioned before, it's not that I didn't have time. I didn't manage my time well. I didn't manage my time as well as I could have. I didn't prioritize my health. Really, that's the ownership piece, is saying that it was me. I am usually the thing that gets in the way of my own success. I don't find it helpful to place blame on anyone else. I can't control anyone else. I can control me. And I think it's important to think about what I could have done differently to have a different outcome. So what can we do to help to move from this place of I'm making excuses? Maybe this is resonating with you because you realize you've been making a lot of excuses as to why you can't do the thing that you really know you need to do in your life. In our previous episode that was with Jess Gordon, we were talking about moving into a career path that's in better alignment with what you feel your purpose is, and just having the courage to take the leap. And maybe that's the thing, and you keep making excuses as to why you will never be able to do the thing that makes you happy. It could look like anything. So number one, I feel like it's important to have a clear picture of what success in your life looks like. That is different for everyone. I have not met a person that, as I sit down and I go through the wheel of life and all the different aspects of life, where they have the same exact picture of what success in each area looks like. Though we do often compare ourselves to others, and we're comparing ourselves to their definition of success, not our own, but it's usually different. So in order to set clear goals for yourself, we have to know what success in each area looks like. So those of you that have been to any of my goal setting sessions, full focus planner workshops, my retreat, know that I have a very specific system that I go through when setting goals each quarter and each year. But I just to pull back and look at the big picture, we're not going to go through all of that today. I would just say, number one, in moving from excuses to ownership, we're going to shift our mindset, take ownership, and just have a clear picture of what success looks like. I would also say write that down. I like data. I like analyzing data. And so as I've been crafting some of my weekly presentations for BNI, I've been looking up statistics related to, what percentage of people follow through on their New Year's resolutions. Well, if you don't know that, it's alarming. Only about 8% of people accomplish their New Year's resolutions by the end of the year. I think that's crazy to me. I also have learned through my research that only about 1% of people write down goals. And that blows my mind too. So 3% of the population actually set annual goals, and only 1% of those are writing them down. But the impact that writing goals down can have, you are actually 40% more likely to achieve your goal just by writing it down and looking at it. So wherever that might be for you. So all of this goes hand in hand in helping us to overcome these obstacles. Is just having a clear picture of what it is we're trying to achieve, and then the why behind it. To me, that's a huge driving force. It's why is it that I want to exercise every day? Why is that even important to me? Why was it important enough for me to write it down on this piece of paper? Why is it that I want to run a leadership development business? Why is that important to me? Because I need to know that when obstacles come up and I'm frustrated and I could very easily quit and go back to 40-hour-a-week job for someone else, right? The why, the key motivations are crucial. So I would say remind yourself of those as you're thinking through what your definition of success looks like. Well, what's driving that for you? What does a successful career look like for you, and why? What is the outcome, the impact that you want to have on the world? All of these things go hand in hand. They truly intersect with one another. Another important area for personal accountability is having a method for tracking your progress. I am a visual person, so I like being able to have it in front of me, whether it is tracking a streak of how many days in a row I've done something, whether it is, a bar graph and I'm trying to achieve this amount and I'm tracking and I'm adding to the bar over time, whatever it may be. I need to be able to see that I'm making progress, because I do admit it is extremely easy for me to get discouraged and not feel like I am making the progress that I wanted if I look at it in a short burst. So for example, let's just say it's the first quarter in the new year and I am 2 weeks into, exercising every day. I have not done it enough to see the impact that it's having on my body, right? But if I am tracking some other method, whether it's the daily reoccurrence of it, whether it is tracking my energy levels and how maybe they're increasing because I have been exercising each day, tracking that progress would be really helpful for me to see. Though I'm not where I want to be, I am still seeing something happening within me, right? That it's getting a little easier to get up each day in the morning and do it before the sun comes up, right? That it's just becoming more natural in general. You could track any aspect of it. My mind automatically goes back to health, because you really don't meet a lot of people that say, I'm in perfect health, I wouldn't change anything. That's usually something that most people can relate to and want to set some sort of goal in. So that's why I tend to immediately go there in my example. But whatever it is, track your progress. I don't care where. Do it in a journal. If you want to look at the Full Focus Planner, which I wholeheartedly believe in, I'd be happy to talk to anyone about that and my experience with it. It's a great place to track your progress. There are all sorts of tools out there. It could be anything, a simple piece of paper. Just jot it down and see how you're doing over time. The other thing I would recommend that helps you to move away from the excuses is to create habits that support the things that you're working towards. So have you really sat down and thought about the habits that are currently in place in your life, whether good or bad, how they're serving you? Have you thought about creating routines that, you would start every day in the same way, so that you're not spending as much time questioning, what do I do next? But you know that these are the things that help set you up for success in the day. So you're going to do them every day, or ending your workday the same way every single time. Think through those habits or routines that could help you hold yourself accountable. And then you'll see, oh my gosh, I haven't followed through on my workday shutdown ritual in a week, and I'm noticing that I'm more stressed out when I come into work in the morning. So that tells me that there was value in that. I need to get back to it. It's so much easier then to see the impact and hold yourself accountable. So consider those routines. As with all of the things that we discuss, it comes down to self-reflection. So how often are you asking yourself your level of commitment? Are you following through on the things that you say you're going to do? If you're not asking yourself that often, it doesn't take that long to do it. I would come up with 1 to 3 questions that you ask yourself at the end of every single day that helps you to really measure your success for the day. And if you could grow in the area of your follow through and your commitments to yourself, not just to other people, but to yourself, I think that that's something worth celebrating. It is powerful to have someone else hold you accountable, but sometimes it really bothers me that I have to have someone else that I don't want to disappoint to follow through on things. Because when it comes to my professional stuff, I tend to be extremely motivated to get things done. I don't really often need someone to motivate me or hold me accountable. It's usually the things that are super uncomfortable for me that I do need someone to, like, whip me back into shape every once in a while and say, hey, Sierra, remember why this is important. The podcast, for example, you guys, I've told you a ton of times that it's so outside my comfort zone. The solo episodes are really, really hard for me. So that is a time where I need someone to kind of motivate me, root me on, and say, Sierra, you've made a commitment to do this and release one every Friday. You are going to let people down if you don't do this. It stinks that it comes to that, but it's the reality of it, and I know that there are those areas in my life. The exercise group, I know I'm in a second one. It's different than the original one I had. I think it was back when I first started this. I was still in the old one, but I'm not sure. But just a reminder of how that works. And I've had a lot of people have success with this, by the way, so I really recommend it. Beyond your typical accountability and having a group chat and saying, hey, don't forget to exercise today, we are tracking the number of days of consecutive exercise in which everyone in the group follows through with their 20 minutes. And that is one of those things where I would make an excuse that I have a headache or my whole body hurts or whatever it is. But I'm not going to be the person to break that cycle. I don't want to be the one that sends a message to the group and says, hey guys, I'm sorry, we have to start back over again at day 1 because I chose not to exercise for 20 minutes today. Ultimately, in a 24-hour period, if I cannot find 20 minutes to exercise, there's a really big problem. So no excuses, guys. That's really what it comes down to. So let's just make sure before we look at holding others accountable that we look at how we can better follow through with our commitments to ourselves. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit now and think about the second aspect here of accountability that I said I would mention today, and that is within your home, the accountability within your home. And sometimes that can look very different. So if you look at your family circle or whoever you live with, maybe you live with friends, depends on, your circumstances, who you're surrounded with. But let's just say you're with family, whatever your family unit looks like. And obviously, family units are going to work best together when everybody takes responsibility for their things, right, within their role. It's going to save time if people are following through with the things associated with their role in the household, their responsibilities. It's going to create more trust that, you have each other's backs and you're going to follow through when someone needs support, maybe outside of an area they would typically help. But I think it really helps to honestly build stronger relationships between the family unit as well. I was thinking about this in relation to often making excuses for ourselves or for someone else within the family unit. That issue of not having enough time or someone being too busy, we could say that about ourselves, right? I'm sorry, I didn't blank. I'm going to use a ridiculous example, but I'm sorry, I didn't take out the trash because I forgot. I'm going to say that one. Okay. So what could you do to make sure that you don't forget? And we live in an age of technology where that's super simple, whether it is you tell Alexa to, sound an alarm on our pickup day is, Friday morning at like 3 a.m. So it's Thursday night for us. It has to go out. You set an alarm and you know that Alexa is going to tell you that evening to put it out, or you set an alarm on your phone, or whatever you have to do. What can you control about it? Yeah, you're going to forget here and there, but if you're forgetting, what can you do to ensure you don't forget? And so that's where I always say there's usually something you can do within your control. Another one is like being frustrated, being stressed out, and then taking it out on other people in the household. Believe me, I do it sometimes too. I feel like I've reached my max. All of a sudden, I can't take on anything else. And then, I say something that I don't mean, or I'm just not approaching things the way that I should. And I know Shade, Paul and I talked about that before too. She was experiencing the same thing where she just said she wasn't her best self, right? She knows, when she's reached her limit. Mine is typically I'm just kind of humaned out for the day, and that's my limit. I can make excuses and say that it's because I spent time around other people all day and I have nothing left, so this is what you get. That's not okay. That's a terrible excuse. So what can I do about that? And a lot of it is mindset. So we are quick to make excuses for our behavior, as well as looking at others and saying, oh, well, this person didn't help me with that because they have too much on their plate. Or, well, how many times did that happen? Is it all the time? Do they just always have too much on their plate? Because you also have too much on your plate. And I think that's why it's helpful to sit down and have a conversation about defining success in the household as well. I actually recently got the Life Focus package. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before. It is another product by Michael Hyatt, and the one that makes the Full Focus Planner that I swear by. And Life Focus really allows you to sit down and define success in different areas of life, but it's like creating a long-term plan. And I feel like going through that process in my own household is going to be helpful. I haven't made it all the way through that. I actually set it aside this morning because I was thinking this is the perfect time of year to take a look at that and see if we can get on the same page as far as what we're all working towards and how we can better support one another, kiddo included. And I think that program is really helpful. I've led other people through it. If you have any questions about it, let me know. But it's really creating a life plan and looking at the next 10 years of your life and backwards planning into, well, what do we need to do each day to make sure we're driving this family unit forward towards our definition of success as a family. I think the other cool piece of that is being able to openly talk about the difference in the definition of success. I know within my household, my view of what a clean house looks like might be a little over the top. I know that I'm a bit of a perfectionist, but controlling my environment is kind of important to me. It makes me feel safe and secure when everything is clean and it's in the right place. And I feel like everything has to be like that before I can start a new week. It's like that clean slate that I need before I take on all of the things for the week. And I often believe that the cleanliness of my house reflects like what's going on in my brain. So if I've had a really tough week, if you walk into my house, nothing is where it's supposed to be. But if I have like been able to stay on top of things and, check all the boxes and I'm feeling good, I have actually been able to maintain order in the house all week, and the weekends are easier, right? I don't know how many people can relate to that, but I think having an extremely clean house is important. Well, my partner does not feel that it needs to be at the level that I do. I know I'm extreme. So finding common ground and figuring out, well, what can we agree on? Obviously, if I'm expecting him to keep it at my level of clean, but he doesn't feel like that's necessary, there's always going to be this issue of, I am setting expectations, not communicated, and then he is not living up to my expectations because he doesn't even agree with my expectations, or I haven't made it clear. So I think there's so much good conversation that can come out of what accountability in your household could look like in your family unit. I think another thing is admitting mistakes, owning up to your mistakes, especially with a child in the household, is important, and being able to acknowledge that we're making mistakes, we're always learning, we're going to support one another through this. So many of these things, children are watching what you're modeling for them, what you're choosing to value, the way that you're communicating. So I think it requires a lot of intentionality when it comes to that. So open communication, I think, is a key strategy when it comes to moving from excuses to ownership, when it comes to the family unit. Just communicating your expectations, your needs, your feelings about things, and feeling like you have a safe place to do so. And obviously, making sure that if someone else is communicating those things, that you're providing a space free of judgment or harsh consequences for someone admitting error, that they feel comfortable coming forward and doing so. I had mentioned the Life Focus Plan. That really comes down to setting family-related goals. I know I've done some social media posts before on, how many different families out there are setting family goals, whether you're goal-oriented or not. I think it's great to have something documented that as a family you're working together, you're able to see your progress and track that on. It kind of was an unsaid goal, but we have morphed to having Saturdays being an adventure day, where my partner is able to choose a destination unbeknownst to me where it will be. I'm giving up a little bit of control, which you guys know is not always easy for me. And we get in the car and we just go, and we enjoy the adventure together. That was kind of not even a goal that we wrote down or said aloud. It just became the norm after doing it a few times, and I think it's a really cool thing that we do now. And the little man really enjoys it and looks forward to it and kind of wants to have an adventure every day now. So that's pretty cool. But think about, what could those shared goals be? Saving up for a trip together, committing to certain family time together, a game night. I've had clients before set up game nights for their family once a week, and then alternating who gets to pick what game it is. There's so many different cool things that you can do. But beyond all the fun, there's also all the responsibilities in the household, and just being consistent in the expectations of, how are all the things going to get done? Because they all have to get done by somebody. And so making sure it's a shared effort is important. And then getting, the whole family involved, getting the kiddo involved. Matthew always jokes that, Caleb is already learning some of my habits as far as cleanliness goes, and he is very proud of himself when he cleans up his playroom or the living room or whatever it may be and comes and shares, come look, I cleaned it all up. I think that's awesome personally. There's another example. Yesterday, Caleb's been catching up on a bunch of missed work from being out sick from school, and he had 16 assignments that he had missed from being out. And I just kind of started the day with, hey, we have all of these to do. I think that we can get through all of these today. I think we can set a timer, and you have a certain amount of time that you can play and watch your Christmas movies. And when the timer goes off, we're going to come back. We're going to do one assignment. Once it's complete, go back to playing again. And we were able to get through everything. And it was really cool to me because as we got closer to the end, he was getting so excited that he was close to the end that he was asking if he could do more of them to get closer more quickly. And it was just really cool to see him, holding himself accountable. He would even come over. The alarm hasn't gone off yet. Did you set the alarm? So I think instilling that piece of accountability and feeling, setting a goal for yourself. Today we're going to achieve catching up on all of our schoolwork, and allowing him to kind of work through that and achieve it, and build in accountability, I think was very helpful for, a 5-year-old to already be doing that. So hopefully you can see how this accountability piece really plays into the whole family unit as well, not just you personally. Okay, switching gears one final time, where we've moved from personal accountability to looking at your family unit, whatever, whoever you live with, if you do not live alone, what that could look like. Now I want to move into organizational accountability and really building that culture of ownership within the organization in which you work. I was listening to a part of the last episode with Jess Gordon, and she was joking with me about kind of my vision to go in these different organizations and help them to see how they could more effectively onboard people. And she made the comment to me, well, how much control do they actually have over that experience? And I argued with her that they have a lot of control, and we would start at the top and have conversations about how we can make changes that could trickle down. And that's where all of this is going to come from too. Even if you're not in a leadership role where you're sitting at the top and you feel like you can have a direct impact, you can always model all of these leadership behaviors. Others see them, others notice them, and when they see the impact, they want to come alongside you. If you're at the right organization, of course, right? So I think that accountability within an organization, in the workplace, it drives performance. It's going to be a driver for creativity and innovation. It's going to help build trust within the organization. So this is a huge component of conversations with a lot of my clients because they will come to me with concerns about specific team members who they feel are not meeting their expectations. And maybe you can relate to that, where you know that there's a team member that you just feel like is not carrying their weight. Maybe your expectations were not communicated, as in my example in the family unit as well. Maybe you find that communicating expectations is difficult for you. You feel you shouldn't have to because you just wish that everyone was as motivated as you and as passionate about what they do, and that they would have the same standards as you, and you don't feel you should have to motivate them. I feel like a lot of times people don't understand others' motivating factors. We automatically think you should just be motivated because you're getting a paycheck and you're getting paid to do the job. I've heard that many times before too. I often see a couple of key areas here where people maybe haven't thought through the impact of what they're doing on others' performance. One example is I work with a lot of business owners who maybe have never even developed a job description. So the employee, the team member is doing what they feel their job entails. Maybe they feel like they've already gone outside of what they would have thought their original scope of work would be. So they feel like they're going above and beyond because this isn't what they signed up for, but you've never clearly communicated what they signed up for. And I, putting myself in the shoes of someone that's going into an organization and interviewing for a job, one of the first things that I would want to look at is my job description. That's going to help me determine whether or not I even want to apply for the position, because I want to see that the things within my job description are in alignment with where I think my strengths lie and the things that I would enjoy and be passionate about. But my mind is often blown by the number of people who have been hired on and say that they've never seen a job description. So I'm not quite sure what that looks like, other than they read the title of a position and just generally try and grasp what that might mean. But I think it leads to so much frustration on both sides. If you are not clear in what someone's responsibilities are, you are setting them up for failure because they don't know what you want from them. And you are just going to be constantly frustrated because you expect more and it's not in alignment. So I would think if you are a team member right now who has never laid eyes on your job description, I encourage you to go and request your job description. If one doesn't exist, I think it is a great exercise to write your own. Write down what your current responsibilities are, and then take a look with your supervisor and say, I know we don't have a job description here, but I'm putting one together. Here are the responsibilities that I have. They might not even have, a clear picture of all the things that you've taken on. You've maybe, as other people have left the organization, you've taken on some of their stuff and you have more than a person's load. So I think that's a great exercise for you. If you are the leader in the organization and you know right now that your team members don't have a job description, I would definitely maybe that's a great 2025 goal for you. Take the steps to get one in place. Don't feel that it has to be you crafting it. I really do think the most powerful approach to that is having the team member craft it for themselves and then come to the table and have a discussion on, maybe you very quickly see a discrepancy between what you envisioned for the position and what they have written on that piece of paper. And suddenly you understand why they're not meeting expectations for you. So that is a huge way to hold people accountable, is to even have that picture of what the role looks like. So to me, that's the number one thing that we should make sure that we do. The other thing related to that I'll point out is I often have clients that come to me and say that they think they need to get rid of an employee because the employee is not performing. When we really take a look at that employee's role, we realize they have an amazing skill set that they bring to the organization, but they're not being given the ability to tap into that. They're spending a lot of time being pushed to do things that aren't within their natural skill set. And if we do a slight readjustment of some of the responsibilities of folks within the team, everybody seems to feel a little bit better. There's not so much pushback on the tasks that they're being asked to do. And it just makes things flow so much more naturally on the team. So consider, before eliminating a person, eliminating a role, think about what everybody's skill sets are, and if a slight readjustment might fix some of those areas. Number two, if there are not regular evaluations taking place, whatever regular means for you. Maybe it's annual, maybe quarterly, sitting down with a team member and talking about their performance. Figure out what that schedule needs to be. Have a clear picture of how much of it is self-evaluation on the team member and how much of it is your feedback on the performance and the goal setting aspect, having a clear picture of what growth within the organization looks like. All of this becomes so much easier when it comes to accountability when you have all of the feedback documented over time. You have done the goal setting together. You're not just setting goals for the person, but they're bought in and they are also setting goals for themselves. And there are things that they want to achieve within their career. It's a completely different scenario than just coming in and saying, you know what, you're not performing, you have 2 weeks to turn it around, or you're going to have to find somewhere else to work. Okay, well, where were you all along? Where was the job description? Where was the conversation about expectations? Where were you to have a coaching conversation with them to help them see opportunities to grow? I taught a coaching framework to one of the organizations that I work with recently. And if you're not familiar with the GROW coaching framework, the G in GROW is the goal. So this is when you're sitting down and you're having a conversation with someone, asking questions about ultimately what's the goal? What are they trying to achieve? What are you trying to achieve by being in this role? The R is the reality. So that is where you're asking questions about, well, where are you now in relation to that? Let's get a clear picture of what's happening for you today, what you're able to achieve today. The O in GROW allows you to really look at the obstacles that person might be facing in their way of getting to the definition of success or their goal, as well as investigating the options available to them. What are some strategies that they could use to achieve that goal and the growth that they're looking for? All of this, again, these are questions that you're asking, not statements that you're making. You're truly curious and want to learn more and make sure that you are there to support them in kind of identifying what steps can be taken. And finally, the W is the way forward. And that is where you map out in great detail exactly what steps they plan to take and by when and how you will hold them accountable so that they can continue making progress toward that overarching goal. I loved sharing that because I did find that those clients have been emailing me exactly how they've implemented that model with their team members in tons of different scenarios that they've been able to use that same model, that same framework. And it's working. It's working for them. Whereas normally they go in and their accountability conversation would appear to be disciplinary and that there are consequences associated, and you're coming in and you're just telling the person all the things that they're doing wrong. Whereas this model is allowing you to shift the conversation where you're coming alongside them and you want them to be successful, and you're asking questions to help them arrive at what option might work best for them. And so I actually, when I was modeling this at that organization, I got up in front of the group and I had one of their team members come up and do a little role play with me. And we did an example of, the team member hadn't been arriving to work on time. Normally, there would be disciplinary action and not a ton of question. It's just, you should know, you're an adult, that you need to be at work on time. Where instead I modeled for them how I could truly make the person feel cared about and heard and question, like, what's happening? What does your morning routine look like? You weren't late in the past, but recently you have been. What has changed for you, and how can we overcome that? And boy, like that example really actually helped the person that I was speaking with to see the way that they had been approaching those conversations as well. So anyway, that GROW coaching model is just one framework out there that can be used to help you come alongside someone and move away from excuses or blame, but instead I'm holding you accountable, but I'm holding you accountable because I care about you and I know that we can achieve this together. So I think that it creates a completely different feeling in your culture to have, someone who's in the leadership role not just be there when you're doing something wrong, but also to have conversations when you're doing something right as well. And what is the goal and what is the reality and how much they've achieved and that you're seeing growth in them. That should be celebrated as well. All of this comes back to clear expectations, open communication, making sure you're positively reinforcing. All of that is going to help to create this culture where people want to achieve, they want to be successful, they feel as if they're a part of a bigger team. And I think you should also consider your level of transparency when you come up short and you make mistakes or you didn't follow through on a commitment. Are you openly sharing? I know that I said I get this to you by this date. This is where I am on it. I am sorry, but I am not going to have it in on time. This is when I'll have it completed by. Are you owning up to that? Or are you avoiding the accountability and you feel like it doesn't apply to you? So consider what you are modeling for the team as well. So hopefully between those three different areas of personal accountability, looking at accountability within your family unit or within your home, and then also at the organizational level, you can see the importance of making sure that we have clear expectations for ourselves and for the people around us, and that we feel comfortable having open conversations with others when they're not meeting expectations, or being open and honest with ourselves when we're not living up to our full potential. I often feel that we're not pushing ourselves as much as we could. We are capable of so much more than we realize. And I understand giving grace to ourselves sometimes, but I also think it can become a habit where instead of a little bit of grace when it's necessary, it just becomes an excuse to not grow. So I hope you found value in hearing a couple of these ideas here today. At least one of those three categories hopefully resonated with you, and you can implement a strategy. I love to hold people accountable. That is why I created the Aspire to Achieve program. I wanted to take people from a place where they were coming to me with their aspirations and didn't have a clear picture of how to get there. Well, I could help them get in alignment and map them out, but they needed accountability too. So if you are looking for accountability, I will throw this out there, shameless plug. I do a monthly accountability program, and it has a couple of different tiers. It could be something where you are just joining us once a month for 45 minutes on a group call, and we are very structured in that 45 minutes. Everybody has the opportunity to share a celebration since the last time we saw one another. Then we share out any challenge that we might be facing. As a small group, we strategize how to overcome the challenges, and then we vocalize our new commitment and what we're focused on in the coming month. So that's been going on actually officially an entire year at this point. I've seen a lot of success with it, a lot of really positive changes in people's lives. If you feel like beyond the group accountability piece, you could use some individualized support, there is also an option for a level of that package where you would receive a 30-minute one-on-one call with me once a month to really dig deeper into what you're working on and your priorities. And it's more of a coaching call to help you through that. So if that's of interest to you, I encourage you to go to my website at sierralearnership.com, and you can learn more about that program. I'm really excited to kind of keep building out those accountability groups. I do want to keep the size smaller so that everybody has an opportunity to truly and fully participate in all of the calls. It is a month-to-month subscription, so there's absolutely no commitment. I've never wanted to, for this program, hold people that don't want to be in it. I want them to choose to renew because they see the value in it. So if it's something that you just want to try for the first quarter of the new year, and you're setting all of these new goals for yourself, and you just want to have somebody in your corner to check in and make sure you're following through, try it for a month or 2 months and see how it feels. If it's not working for you, you don't have to stay. So I think that that's a huge benefit as well. All right, shameless plug over. I just wanted to let you know, if accountability is of interest to you, it is something that I really enjoy helping people with, and reach out and we can find a way to get you in and make sure you're getting the support you need. All right, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. I encourage you to subscribe if you haven't already. This podcast does drop a new episode every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time, so you can be on the lookout for that. I have quite a few guests already scheduled out in the coming weeks and months, and I'm very excited about that. But I will again provide an open invitation if you do feel like you have something of value you would like to share for folks to be able to apply leadership principles to everyday life, no matter where they are in life. I'd love to have you. You can go on the branchingoutpodcast.com site and scroll all the way to the bottom, and there is a guest application section. I am not the one that approves those applications, so don't hold it against me. If you hear back and it's not a good fit, that's not me. But anyway, thank you so much for sticking through to the end. If you found value, please share it with someone else that you think might need to hear the message from today. And until next time, keep branching out.